Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel, Tomcat Stitchery. I'm Whitney and I'm here for the last coat in coat month. Now, I know that it is February. I'm actually filming this on February 1st. You're watching it on February 2nd. But I finished the coat yesterday on January 31st, so I think that counts for something. Also, we've got, hold on, she's getting all comfortable. Gidget, who got groomed. She had her spa day on Saturday. So she's looking quite, smelling quite good and looking quite lovely today with me. Yes, you needed to say hi to everybody. So she got her hair cut, bathed, all that jazz. So she's feeling pretty good about herself. Okay, so today is the last coat in coat making month. I have done a sew the look for this. I'm also kind of sitting on it. So I was trying not to, this fabric is like Velcro. And I feel like I've talked about it a lot. The air is so dry in my home. We have humidifiers and everything. I have no idea what's so different about this winter. But it also means static, like in the entire house, is just insane. And especially in my sewing room where there's all these like little threads and with my lining fabrics, you know, you get like the little fuzzies that come off the end of the fabric kind of when it's like a, well, I think this is an acetate rayon blend. That just like literally you can just watch them like whoop, like suck themselves to things. Anyway, this coat has acted like gigantic Velcro. Okay, so let's get into it. We'll talk about the coat, talk about the pattern I used to get into the fabric, and then we will talk about some of the things that I did to the coat to make it mine. All right, so it was this coat right here from J.Crew that I saw that I loved, mostly because of the color, but I also really liked the streamline minimalist look of it. I liked the stand-up collar, I thought it looked nice and warm, and I think I liked very clean lines. You know, there's not a lot of seams on this coat, so it really is the bright color that pops. And that, yeah, and orange has kind of been my thing since I had my colors done last year and realized that orange is one of my colors and it's not a color I've like really ever worn. So I've kind of just really fallen down the rabbit hole of wearing all the orange, like making up for lost time, I guess. I don't know. But it's like my favorite. I used to wear hot pink as like a pop of color. Like that used to be my pop of color I'd go to because I thought that was my colors. Turns out it is in fact not. If I want to do a pop of color, it needs to be a tomato red or a bright orange. That's a really good bright pop of color for me. Anyway, who knew? So I immediately went on the hunt, number one, for a pattern, and number two, for fabric, both of which obviously being very important for this particular coat that I wanted to recreate. So I did a video on, gosh, this was back in the fall, I guess, on trending coat patterns or trending coats and the patterns to sew them or recreate them or DIY them or something like that. It wasn't that long of a title, but you know what I mean. Anyway, and this coat was on one of those, and I had earmarked the Bamboo Coat by Waffle Patterns. And this was when I kind of had first discovered Waffle Patterns. I hadn't sewn any of their stuff up yet. And then I made the bamboo coat pattern per normal for a different J.Crew coat that you guys saw. I'll pop a link up to that video, which was the plaid coat, which was another bright J.Crew coat that I was recreating and loved it. Now, unfortunately, Waffle Patterns do not come in it's a very small size range, like maybe 6 sizes or something. It's not a large size range at all. So not inclusive really on either end, but anyway, hopefully, I feel like a lot of independent designers are expanding their size ranges, so hopefully that'll be the case with this one. But I mean, it's a very classic coat pattern. I mean, there's a lot of big 4 coat patterns similar to this, and some indie patterns that are very similar. So it's definitely something that you wouldn't necessarily have to use. Sorry. So this is a very standard, straight, minimalist, coat pattern. It comes with, the original pattern comes with a notched collar, which is the one that I made first, and then also just a rounded, like no collar basically, just a round neck coat as well. They also have released a stand-up collar with a zipper front that, oh, excuse me, and with a new pocket, a different pocket option as well. That was an add-on pattern, which I purchased, and that is what I used for this one. So I used the same pattern that I used for the coat that I made back at the beginning of January. So I made a size 40 in the neck and collar and shoulder, and then went from a 40 to a 44 at the arm's eye. So I used the 44 arm's eye, trace it off, put it at the 40 shoulder line, and then swing it out until it meets the 44 at the side seam. So it changes, it's the same armhole, same sewing line, it just rotates it a little bit. Because there's not a lot of shaping in this coat, so I didn't really need to do a full bust adjustment necessarily, but I wanted the narrow up here. So anyway, that's what I did with that. I shortened the sleeve, I think by an inch and a half, and did nothing with the body. Now the original coat that I made at the beginning of the month, the plaid one, I made the longer length. This one I actually did the shorter length, and I think there's like 6 inches difference, maybe 4 inches. I think about 6 probably inches different in the finished coat length, but you know, I was making basically the same coat, so I wanted to change it up a little bit and did the shorter length. Then again, used the pattern that, the add-on pattern for the collar, and then the separate pocket pieces. Now, one thing about Waffle Patterns, they have she just has a lot of like her details are just really, really good. And she has a ebook kind of, I think it's 21, 24, something like that, pocket patterns that you can put on any coat pocket. So that's something that can definitely be, you know, run the gamut of any sizes, because a pocket, you know, it's not a size, it's just a one size thing, and you could stick it on any coat pattern. And I've bought that. I did not use that on this pattern because this pocket came with the add-on pattern I used, but I think it's included in that collection of pockets. So the sky was kind of the limit on the pocket I wanted to do on this. The pocket that goes with the original coat pattern is the one I used for the plaid coat again, that is kind of a welt pocket that goes in, you know, your hands go in kind of at a side angle. And then there's also a patch pocket that comes with this pattern in the original. And then with the add-on pattern, you get this zippered welt pocket that's just really cool. Now, obviously, with the inspiration picture, it's a welt pocket with a flap, which is a very blazer-looking pocket to me. I think it looks nice, but in all honesty, with a coat, those aren't easy to get your hands into because you have to go like up underneath the flap and then down. So it's not easy just to like walk and stuff your hands into. And then it doesn't look good to have your hands stuffed into them, if that makes sense, because then the flap's up and it just doesn't look well if you have your hands in your pockets. Which in a coat, there are occasions when I'm walking along where I want my hands stuffed in my pockets. So I decided instead of doing the welt with the flap pocket on this coat, that I would do something a little bit more functional for me, and I really wanted to try the invisible zipper welt, and I'm so glad I did. I think it gives the same, you know, it's still that minimalist, very flat across the front of the coat, but is also a really interesting pocket, and I had a lot of fun making it. I love doing details like that, and it's sewn very similar to a welt, and again, her instructions are pretty good. I say that they're not super, super detailed, but they're just detailed enough, and there's a ton of illustrations that it's pretty easy to, I found it pretty easy to follow along. But anyway, I was very, very pleased. Okay, so let's talk about the coat that I made. So here is my beauty here. I used a wool blend from Minerva for my coat, and then I used I think it's a Lady McElroy actually, rayon acetate lining for the interior of the coat. Now this is the same lining that I used for the plaid coat that I made back in the beginning of the month, just a different color. I'm having such a hard time getting that top snap to unsnap. See, I wanted it all put together, oops, so that you could see it really well. So there she is. I'll pop, obviously, footage of me in it here in just a minute. So let me unzip it so you can take a look. I used this wool. It's a wool blend. It's a coating weight. It was pretty thin, and I'm gonna be really honest. When it came, I grabbed it because of the color, and it was very reasonably priced. I think it was like $6.99, and that's British pounds, a meter. And I needed 2.5 meters for the shorter coat, which is what I wanted to make for this one, and I used every bit of it. You know, very little left over. It's also looking very wrinkled, I think, because I've been smooshing it around. And when it arrived, I was underwhelmed. It was pretty thin. There was a lot of pilling on the back of it. And I was like, well, you know, it's a wool blend. And this one was a higher polyester content or acrylic. I can't remember which one. You know, kind of same difference, but because the plaid was also a wool blend, but it had a higher wool content. So I'm like, well, you know, it was very reasonable. So we'll give it a try and see how things go. Now I have underlined the entire body of the coat with flannel, and I'm gonna actually cut to that here in just a minute and show you what that looks like. But with that added, I was actually really, really pleasantly surprised how well this handled. And once it's got the flannel underlining in it, I really like the way that it has turned out. So, I mean, when I first came, I was like, oh, this may be a bust. I'm not really sure. Highly recommend. I mean, I recommend it. I don't know how well it's gonna wear. It could be one of those that starts to pill, you know, gets the pills under the arms and stuff after it gets worn, you know, a season or whatever. So I can't speak to that yet because I obviously just came off the sewing machine. But as far as like it pressed beautifully, it cut well. I feel like it shaped really well. I feel like it looks good. So as far as right off the bat, I'm very impressed, especially for the price point. So if there's something like really trendy that you're wanting to try as far as coats, or if you're just really wanting to dip your toe into coat sewing and want to use a wool, because I do feel like that is a good place to start. And this has enough wool in it that it really did act like wool. Like it was a lot of shaping that was able to take place. I felt like I got a good shape on my shoulders, all that kind of stuff. So, I mean, and it's a fantastic, price point, and Minerva has really, really reasonable international shipping. I think it's like £5 international shipping if you spend at least 50 pounds, I think, something like that. It's very reasonable. And in normal times, it's pretty quick. Usually once the order had shipped, it would be about a week until I received it. Now, obviously we're in the middle of COVID, and I know a lot of people, let's see, I think I ordered this fabric at Black Friday, and it took like 2.5 weeks, probably, maybe even close to 3, to actually get to my door from the day I ordered it. And I know that the UK is currently in lockdown. I mean, and Minerva, I think, is running per normal because they are an online business and that kind of thing. But I'm sure that they're having to take precautions with staff and stuff like that in their warehouse. And then I know the mail is running much slower, both over there and over here. So I think that those are adding to the delay. But I mean, if you don't mind waiting a little bit, I've been very impressed with both the shipping and how quickly it comes. Anyway, super impressed with this fabric. You know, I didn't have any issues with the pressing. You know, sometimes with this is kind of Melton-ish. It's much thinner, which also makes it easier because then you don't have super, super bulky seams when you're working with it. So especially if it's a first coat, I would definitely recommend this fabric. I mean, I think it worked great, and I think it looks, you know, the stitches sink in nicely like it would on a Melton without it being overly bulky. Yeah, I was very impressed. And then the lining, I think, worked really well also. Okay, so the coat, I got a zipper here in this orange, which obviously a little bit brighter orange. And my other bamboo coat that I made, I did buttons down the front. The pattern actually calls for a hidden button placket, and I've not even made the hidden button placket. I made I just did exposed. I wanted to do bound buttonholes on the first one, so I did those just regular on the front, and then I wanted to try the zipper on this one, and I think it works really well, because I think the J.Crew coat had a zipper, but it gave me more the look that I was wanting. And then there's instructions for how to do when to put the snaps and stuff on. I didn't want my snaps showing on the right-hand side, so the snaps only go through the facing on this side. They go through the entire body of the coat on the other side, but they only go through the facing on this side to keep everything really clean. Separating zipper, like I said, that I got from Wall Whack. And then I have matching invisible zippers here in this welt pocket. I am obsessed with these welt pockets. So it's an invisible zipper right here, which I can't undo one-handed. And it's the same color. And then, yeah, these nice deep pockets. And look, I lined it with my flannel. These are my daughter's old flannel sheets that I used. And it's the Frozen themed. It's got Elsa and Anna all over it. So these are from when she was obviously much smaller, and she has new, more grown-up flannel sheets now. So I have confiscated that sheet set. My kids have full-size beds, so it's a lot of fabric, really. I confiscated that from her, and then my son had some Star Wars flannel sheets that I confiscated from him that I'm going to be lining coats, because I love using flannel for interlining, and as long as it's not a light colored fabric, you can use whatever you want. So anyway, I love how the pockets turned out. The lining works really well. I did go ahead and do the vent, although with the shorter version, you wouldn't have to. You could just cut, you know, and sew the seam all the way down the back, but I find vents kind of fun to sew, so I went ahead and did that. I put a shoulder pad into the coat and a sleeve head, which I've shown you guys how to do on the coat sew along that we're currently in. What else to say? I really love this coat. I just think it's a nice bright pop of color, and I love it with my hat that I knit like 2 or 3 years ago now, but I will show you footage now of me actually in the coat. I just think I love how high it comes up on my neck. My flannel lined pockets I think are gonna be nice and warm. I really love it with this hat. I'm really liking the bright orange with like the wine color, you know, like that almost deep purpley red color. I really am liking those two colors together right now, and I think that this hat, which has a ton of different colors in it, it's kind of a variegated yarn. It's a Malabrigo Rios, I think, yarn that I knit double for the hat, and again, I made that like 3 years ago. I don't even know what the yarn color was or anything like that. Anyway, I think that they go really well together, so yeah, there is my coat, my recreation of the J.Crew coat. I am so pleased. I can't wait to wear this. We just had, as you can tell with my modeling here, we just had a fairly big snow this weekend, finally. And yeah, I think it's a nice bright pop of color here in the middle of the snow. It's gonna be good for my neighborhood walks. See, this is a ready-to-wear top that I thrifted. Look at the different, see, normally I make my boat neck lines just a teeny bit smaller so that they don't show my bra strap. Anyway, I think the orange is just a nice bright pop of color. It's just much different than all of the grays and blacks and navies that you see everyone wearing with their coats. Yeah, you can stand out a little bit. And yeah, I just really love my, my new bright orange coat. So there you have it. Before we go any further, I do want to talk about, okay, so I did the flannel inner lining on the inside of the coat, and if that's something you're interested in doing, it's literally just cutting the pattern out in flannel. Again, it can be thrifted flannel. It does not have to be flannel you bought new. I mean, if you were making an ivory wool coat, you would probably want to use a natural colored flannel on the back, just so nothing bleeds through or no, you know, colors can be seen through or anything like that. But for anything else, you can just use regular thrifted or well-worn flannel sheets to interline. But I'm gonna cut right now to show you what that looks like. Okay, I just really quickly wanna show you what each of these pieces with the underlining looks like. So this is one of the fronts of the coat, and I have done this on both fronts, both backs, and all 4 sleeve pieces, because this is, or sorry, 2 sleeve pieces. This is just it's a 1 sleeve, but it's kind of looks like a 2-piece sleeve. Anyway, long story. So just the body parts of the coat. So the collar pieces, the facings, all those pieces do not get interlined with flannel. Only the body parts of the coat. So the front, the back, the sleeves. Well, what I've done is I've cut, and so you can use sheets. Now, obviously, if I were doing like a white wool, I would not want to use anything with a print because it could see through. But this orange works perfectly fine with this, a set of my daughter's old sheets when she was younger. I have put the right side of the sheet against the wrong side of the fabric just to make it a little less visible because I'm using a lighter color of my rayon or my lining, and I just want to make sure it doesn't peek through. But what's wonderful is that because you have this extra layer, I mark on this with regular pen. Now, again, if you're using a lighter color wool, it could seep through. You could be seen, I guess, but because I'm using a dark color, I'm fine with, you know, just marking on this. So what I've done is on my front piece, I have interfaced my hem. Yeah, making sure that you're in frame there. Interfaced my hem on the body of the fabric. I've interfaced my pocket on the body of the fabric. And I've also done all of my interfacing. It's kind of stuck to it, which actually, I'll talk about that in a second. Here on the top, where I want to put that. And then after I'd done the interfacing on the body, I laid this on top and then I ironed them together because just to kind of get them to smush together a little bit better. But also, when you do have this weft interfacing, excuse me, sometimes a little bit of glue comes out the backside and it'll kind of make the interlining stick a little bit, which is kind of nice. So now that I have both my pieces together, I'm going to go through and I'm going to do my basting on my pocket just so I can see that. I need to be able to see that on the right-hand side because I'm doing a well zippered pocket. So I'll go ahead and do the basting there. And then I actually think I'm going to baste my dart, which is not a bad idea because when you do pinch this together, sometimes your layers can separate and then you get a wonky dart on the actual outside of the coat. So especially with a dart this big, on the shoulder dart on the back, I didn't bother basting it. It squished together just fine. But I think I may go ahead and baste this dart together just to make it easier when I do go to sew it. So yeah, I'm going to do that, and then it's putting the coat together as usual, but this is what it looks like to put a flannel interlining into the body of a coat. Okay, so there you have it. And again, I just did the fronts, the back, and the sleeves in the flannel just to give a little bit of extra warmth, and then obviously it helps with your marking all of your bits and pieces, especially when you're doing your pockets and that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's a great way to make a wool that you, for instance, buy, and maybe it's a little thinner than you thought. Definitely a way to beef it up a little bit and give you a little bit more warmth, but also help with the longevity of the fabric. So when it's a little bit thicker and you've got that little extra added base back there, it is going to help the fabric wear better over a longer time. And again, I don't know how long this is going to last, how well this wool is going to look good, but for right now, I'm very impressed with the end result. So there you have it. I will leave links to the pattern and to the fabric down below. I did buy the fabric. You know, a lot of times with Minerva, I am gifted things for their Minerva makers. This fabric I did purchase, but I do have an affiliate link for that, so I'll leave it down below. And it came in a ton of different colors. So I will leave a link to the fabric and the lining down, also that came in a lot of colors down below if you are still interested in doing your own coat making. Okay, so Friday, while I was making this, I realized I didn't have a zipper. I have so many zippers. My zipper stash is ridiculous, but I realized I was out of, I didn't have anything orange, oddly enough. So while I was waiting for a wall whack order to arrive, I went ahead and got my kids' PJs finally finished. Have been sitting there. When did I do that plans video? Like back at the beginning of December, I think. So I'm going to show you what I've made. I've made 3 sets of pajamas for my kids, 2 for my son and 1 for my daughter. He gets kind of left out in the cold a little bit more than she does. So when it comes to my making, and he'd had some special requests. So I'm going to be sharing all of that on Friday. Also, my sewing group, going forward, my sewing group, we normally get together for a retreat where we go to a cabin in the woods from like a Thursday to a Sunday and do a sewing retreat. Obviously, because of COVID, that did not happen this year, but we're going to do a virtual one this weekend. So I'll be locking myself in my sewing room on Saturday and Sunday morning, just Sunday morning to do kind of a virtual sewing retreat with them. So I'm going to be prepping. So I will definitely be sharing you everything that I'm able to get done this weekend during my virtual sewing retreat. But then Sunday, the Chiefs football, American football, Super Bowl is Saturday or Sunday, and that is my hometown, Kansas City. Well, not really my hometown. I'm actually from a small town in the middle of Missouri, but we moved here from Kansas City, and Kansas City is the closest big city to where I grew up. But anyway, they are playing in the Super Bowl for the 2nd year in a row, so we'll be cheering them on Sunday. Yes, and then we've got part 8, the last part of the coat sew along is on Sunday, and then I haven't decided if I'm going to do a tutorial week or if I'm just going to dive right into the next sew along. I'm still undecided on that, but the next sew along is V8772. It's the blouse pattern, and I'm going to be making the the pussy bow blouse version of this in a silk crepe de chine because this is the pattern I'm using for One Pattern 3 Ways. So I'm doing the full sew along on the pussy bow blouse top. I'll be showing you how I work with trickier fabrics because silk crepe de chine's shifty. And then yeah, then we'll be delving into 2 other ways to make up the pattern in different fabrics and stuff. And I won't be doing full sew-alongs with those 2 versions, but I will be going and showing you what I've done to the pattern, or, you know, whatever, to make those versions. So yeah, we'll be hopping around on that. So that's what we've got looking forward to in the rest of February, kind of. And I'm sure there'll be some other stuff in there as well. I hope you guys are having a wonderful Tuesday, and I will see you guys again on Friday.